Phew, that was close. All right, so, so the devotion comes from 1 Corinthians 9, verses 16 through 23. If I proclaim the gospel, this gives me no ground for boasting, for an obligation is laid on me, and woe to me if I do not proclaim the gospel. For I do this of my own will, I have a reward, but if not of my own will, I am entrusted with a commission. What then is my reward? Just this, that in my proclamation I may make the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my rights in the gospel. For though I am free with respect to all, I have made myself a slave to all, so that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became a Jew in order to win Jews. To those under the law I became as one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so that I might win those of the law. To those outside the law, I became as one outside the law, though I'm not free from God's law and am under Christ's law, so that I might win those outside the law. To the weak, I became weak, so that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that I might by all means save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, so that I may share in its blessings. So I have this little devotion. Martin Luther said, a Christian is perfectly free, Lord of all, subject to none. A Christian is a perfectly dutiful servant of all, subject to all. And so I don't know how many of you know this, but I'm originally from Michigan. And in St. Ignace, Michigan, there's a grave of Father Jacques Marquette. And he was a Jewish missionary to the Huron and Ojibwe people. And his grave is marked and honored as one of those who gave witness to Christ in word and affection, affirming about the native people that all are created in the image of God. And when Father Jacques Marquette arrived from France, he studied native languages and cultures for 2 years before he began his missionary journey. And then he widened the sense of the gospel by including in it the native understanding of God while proclaiming the Savior, Jesus Christ. And so, I think that all of us are graced and called to be loving and inclusive, Christ-like witnesses and servants to all. So let's pray. Global and inclusive Christ, you have created us as part of humankind. Continue to open us to all as witness servants in inclusive love. Amen.
Amen.
So I have an agenda. First, before I start with the agenda, who wants to do the devotions next month?
I can do them, Deb.
Woohoo! Thanks, Sarah.
What is the date of that? I'm not sure that I have it on my calendar yet.
It's the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
So next month it will be March 4.
Okay.
And then I'm hoping that you all read the minutes from the January council meeting. And can I get a motion to approve those, or do you have any discussion or amendments to make to those?
A second in motion.
Okay, Vern moved. Is there a second? Carolyn seconded. All in approval, say thumbs up.
Aye.
Great, thanks, Janet. All right. So reports. I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page for our supply pastors and interim and Ash Wednesday. So this Sunday, the bishop is our presiding and preaching minister.
Okay.
Yeah. The following Sunday will be Wayne Beebe from Pullman. He's been here for a long time, lifelong Lutheran. The following Sunday, the 21st, will be Pastor Phil Meisner, who is in Colfax, but he's also the assistant to the bishop. And he already told me, kind of spilled the beans, he's going to be doing some of the amazed preaching, amazed color, inclusivity. which is why
Color amazed.
Color amazed. Thank you, Carolyn. So he's going to do one of those recorded sermons for us for that week. And then the following week will be Pastor Holly Gumby, and she's in Spokane. And I'm not quite sure yet what, it'll be a Zoom. I'm not sure if she's going to record, but she's also going to preside. So that's through the month of February. By then, we should have negotiated with our interim, who at this point, I think is going to be Pastor Nick Nicolai. He used to be the Wazoo campus pastor, and then he was at Troy for a while, and now he's retired and has agreed to come back and be our interim. And so, as you know, part of our severance package was to pay for 4 months of Pastor Dowd's time. And so that goes through May. And so our original conversations with the synod said that they would pay those 4 months of our interim so that we weren't paying 2 pastors. I haven't seen that in paper yet, but I'm still going with that assumption. And every time I talk to Pastor Phil, I bring that back up. So it's on his radar. I don't want it to fall through the cracks. And so, so that gets us to March when we have our interim start. We also have Ash Wednesday in February on the 17th. And Pastor Donna Svarin, who used to be a pastor at Emmanuel, will be our presiding pastor at the Ash Wednesday service. Yeah, I know, it's pretty exciting. And so this will be an outside service. It'll be drive-through. Monica right now has put out a call for people to be greeters and readers at that service. And so the greeter would greet people as they come into the parking lot. We have, or will have, a Lenten egg for them with some devotions and some other ideas inside. I don't want to spill the beans. On how to, get ready for Easter. And so the greeter would give those out and then let them know, how things work in the parking lot. The next person would be the reader, and basically for every car, you would probably read the same passage over and over again. And then Pastor Donna will be there to do the ashes. And then I'm looking for 1 or 2 or 3 other council members to join me in alternating to do the benediction. If you can't make it, I'll just keep doing the benediction over and over again as people leave. Through this whole drive-through, people can tune their radios to our radio station and listen to our musicians playing Lenten music in the background. So I think it's kind of a feast for the senses, because people have been in COVID for so long, and not seeing people that, it'll be nice to hear music, to listen to the scripture, to get the ashes, and to get a little gift as they come through. And so it sounds like it should be pretty smooth going, I'm hoping. But if you'd like to volunteer for a greeter or reader, let Monica know. If you would like to volunteer to be one of the people who does the benediction, let me know that, and I can certainly can fit you in. Well, the whole thing is scheduled for 2 hours. Starts at 4, goes to 6, so that people who don't like to drive at night have a chance to come when it's still daylight. People who end up at the university kind of late in the day still have a chance to come through later, and I can still get to bell choir practice. So it's all about me, right? And so I think for these 2 hours, you could volunteer to be there for a half an hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours, however it works out, and we'll fit you in as you're able to be fit in. So think about that if you want to, and let me know if you want to be a benediction person. Yeah.
My initial question was going to be, what day of the week is it? But
that's Wednesday. I'm pretty sure it's on a Wednesday.
Right. So readers going from car to car, does that mean we need multiple readers?
No, there'll just be a line of cars that comes into the parking lot, and so the car would drive up to you and stop. And everyone in the car, we're asking them to all have their masks on if they're over 5, and you will have a mask on, and read the scripture for them, and then they would move on to the next spot as it opens up.
And before they move on, we ask, would you like fries with that?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're also asking for a food bank donation that night. So, if you get questions, spread the word. But I think it should work out pretty well. And I think it'd be great to see a lot of people that we don't normally see in person for sure.
Deb, I think this is a really creative idea for a way to be able to do Ash Wednesday during COVID. So thank you for all those who have thought through this.
Yeah, it was, I hadn't really, well, I thought about it and, but hadn't really made much motion on it. And then Janet McIntosh sent me a note and said that Pastor Donna was willing to be our presiding minister at Ash Wednesday. And she came up with these ideas with Janet mostly, and I just nodded my head and said, yeah, we'll make it happen. So.
Can I just
should be
sound
good.
off on something on Ash Wednesday? This is nothing to do with planning or anything. It's just, I've been waiting for years for a sermon on Ash Wednesday that makes a point of the obvious irony of the imposition of ashes. And I'm not against the imposition of ashes. I think it's a beautiful ceremony. But the gospel text is always from the Sermon on the Mount about when you fast, do not disfigure your faces like the hypocrites do, but fast in, in your own privacy, and God will see that in your privacy, and blah, blah, blah. So
And then we go out with a big,
I always wash off the ashes right afterward.
I always do too, but mostly because the ash falls into my contacts and then,
You don't want that.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry to hold things up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Any other questions? Yeah,
Is that next week or the week after?
it's the 17th, the week after next.
17th, the week after, okay.
Mhm.
I could be a reader, by the way, if you're taking volunteers.
Yeah. How long do you want to be out there?
How cold is it going to be?
Could be pretty cold.
I could certainly do a half hour and probably an hour.
Okay. All right, we'll see how many other volunteers Monica gets, but I'll let her know. Thank you. All right, Carolyn, you're up. You're mute. You're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So this afternoon, I sent you 2 documents. One of them is my report that I'll just go over a little bit in the meeting. And the other one is 2 documents from Mindy, our bookkeeper. She and I were kind of trying to figure out a good way to get you some information without it being, too overwhelming and too weird. So there are 2 things. There's a balance sheet and there's a profit and loss report for the month of January. And you will see as the months go on, it'll have the monthly report and then it'll have the year-to-date report. Okay, in neither of those documents will you see, our budget numbers.
Right.
This year in 2021, our income and expenses need to average about $27,000, 571 to meet our budget. Excuse me. Our income for January was about 14,000 and expenses paid were about 23,000. For the year to date, our deficit is at 9,400. Both expenses and income are lower than anticipated for January, although they're not really. Sometimes expenses are higher, but income is always low in January. The balance in our checking account on January 31st was 6,350, although as of today, it was almost 14,000. And we have outstanding obligations for contributions that were designated for uses that are not part of the general fund. And that's those designated funds that are on that balance sheet. Currently, we owe about $10,000 on our US Bank line of credit, and we have a monthly analysis charge of $50. So an analysis charge is the charge that you get on a business account whenever you have more than $10,000 going through, or I can't remember how many deposits, but we definitely don't have that many deposits. So it's the $10,000. So looking ahead, we've applied for a second PPP loan for the same amount as the first one, $61,000, which will be divided, if we get it, between the preschool and the church. Last time the church got 47,000 and the preschool got 14,000. So I'm assuming that it's the same. We basically submitted all the same documents. And we'll see going ahead how we do, you know, as we transfer or transition from paying a full-time pastor to supply pastors and interim pastor. It'll be helpful if the synod can help us out with the interim pastor. Something that I just did today that I think is exciting. Well, what I did wasn't exciting. I went to a webinar, but it was on Vanco, and we have qualified for an upgrade. And what it is they are completely redoing. Okay, so first of all, this is just all about the portal. We're not getting any savings, you know, none of that is happening. But they're completely redoing their portal so that they have what they call tiles. And so it's like little windows, and each window can be a designated fund. They also have started including a choice for paying for events.
Really?
So thinking with my stomach, I was thinking, oh, the spaghetti feed for the preschool. We could do this. And so you can have as many tiles as you want. You can customize them with your own pictures. You can customize them with your own text. You then can put it up on your webpage where it lives. And everything else will remain the same. So you don't have to you know, redo your logins or anything else. That the admin side does, but the congregational side does not. It looked really pretty. The best thing is that they are building a page for each person that signed up for this upgrade. Yeah, I know. I mean, I only found out about it because Kathy Anderson sent me the email and said, you should do this. Okay. So we'll get a dedicated URL, and somebody with magic fingers like Tim can put it up on our WordPress.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, Tim.
Carolyn, do you know who currently manages our Vanco Giving app portal?
No. I was going to say, so Kathy does all of the reporting. Oh, and none of that is going to change either. Nothing on the back end is going to change. I think basically Monica does, because I think it's just a link.
And this is the Give Plus app, right?
This includes the Give Plus app.
So I mean, I just put a link in the chat that's to a page we used to use on the old website that hasn't been moved over yet, because I don't know who actually manages this form that was created for us to donate to. Do you know who?
Me neither.
So I had somebody from the congregation, my father-in-law, asked me about the donation page on the website currently, because right now the only thing that's on there is the PayPal donation page. And I couldn't find the old page. And then I found this link, but I had no idea who had access to this or who managed it or set up these designations on this form or anything about embedding it without that kind of information. So I was curious who had the account access to this so that I could look at embedding it on our website properly.
That what you just pulled up, Tim, is totally independent from the app. And so the app does not have a front access, and the only person who has back access to it is Kathy, which is why if we want to add a fund to the app, it shows up on the mobile app, then
But
Kathy.
the mobile app is separate from an
is totally
online
separate.
giving
This
page.
look the page that you just sent, it looks rather old. I don't know who set that up.
Okay, because not everybody is going to use the app, and this was another option I believe that we had to donate before that wasn't through the app.
So this new page should replace what you just showed us.
Perfect.
Um, and we can customize each tile, little box, to whatever we want. And we can also make, we can have like special fundraisers and, you know, put it in and then take it down. It looked, okay, it looked pretty simple. I mean, it looked like it wouldn't be super hard to do. There's a back page, and then, you know, there's just this URL, and the fact that they're building it for us, I think will be, because what they'll put in is everything that we have given them as a category. And then we can go in and change them and customize it.
So do we only have a single Vanco account that all of these different services fall under, or is the app have a different admin login versus this giving form versus the other?
They said that they said there, I'm trying to remember. I think that you'll be able to coordinate the app and the online giving. I think you will be able to link out to the app, and I think that the app will have a teeny tiny version of the online giving form.
And
But
is the
what I
Give
would
Plus
love,
service, is the Give Plus service also part of the Vanco umbrella?
yes,
So do you know if we have like a single administrator account that manages all of those different services, and or are they all separate services that somebody has access to?
I think it's a single account.
Okay, and you said that Kathy has access, is the one who's has access to that stuff?
Yes.
Do you communicate with, I mean, I'm assuming the answer is no, Carolyn. Do you communicate with Kathy regularly
yeah,
about the Vancos?
like
Oh,
every week.
Okay.
Yeah. Every week I get a report.
Okay.
No, she's the only one who has access to the back end of this, or does Monica have access as well?
No,
We've
that
discussed
wasn't in the
past-
webinar.
We've discussed in the past that it might be good if the logon information should be somewhere in the church's office for maybe Monica. So, because, you know, if only one person and only that person has it, that's tricky business.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
I'm
little
sorry.
sketchy.
let
Especially
me,
if they're not an employee of the church per se.
No,
Okay.
no, that's not, that, Kathy is a vault. And I trust that lady with
Right.
everything, but you know, it just, let's, you know, I don't want to talk about it, but if something were to happen, you know, how do we get onto it? On the other hand, of course, it's by design that Kathy and only Kathy has access to the backbone.
and actually, so now that we use Church Track, all of those, all of that information is automatically loaded into Church Track, and that will continue with the new website.
What is Church Track?
What is Church Track? Yeah.
Well, Church Track is the online, I don't know when the church bought it. It was there when I became treasurer. They've been using it for a while. It's an online church management system, basically. It's got it. That's where, let's see, that's where you all of the giving information is. That's where Kathy pulls all her reports. It's mostly Kathy. But Monica uses it too, and I am trying to start putting some of the budget stuff on that. So,
I was going to say, it's also a tool that our pastors could use, you know, to track visitations,
Right.
You know, phone calls to people,
Mileage.
mileage, discretionary giving, you know, those kind of things that, you know, would be nice. You know, Pastor Dowgs wasn't really great on technology and didn't want to use it, but I think that could be something that could certainly be used by an interim or a new pastor that comes on board.
so what I'd like to do, if you guys wouldn't mind, I got a a link. I mean, they, after the live webinar, and anybody can watch the recording of the webinar. And there's also some handouts, although the handouts are mostly, they're not informational for you, they're informational for the congregation. I mean, it's basically a sales pitch, but on the other hand, they're making it available to all of their Vanco people or their current users without additional charge. I think it looks pretty slick. I think it'll be like most of these things, it's not going to be Google, but it'll be better than what we've got now, which I guess is a PayPal button.
So you said that Kathy is also the admin for our church tracker program as well, probably?
No, I think Monica is, but I
Monica
don't know
is?
that for sure.
Okay.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
so
I
fun, Tim, to embed that in the website. Oh my God, do I envy you?
I'm just trying to figure out who controls all these random accounts that we have so that hopefully they can all be centralized so that the church office is the one who has access to all of the different things instead of very helpful members of our congregation who may or may not be able to contact at all times if something needs to be updated or changed or something goes down or breaks.
Sure.
Yep, I second that, Tim. Mhm.
So I think the person to start with would be Monica,
Mhm.
the Oracle.
Exactly.
So is it okay if I forward this on to you guys
Yeah,
to take a gander? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
be great. Thank you. And
I
before-
already said we are interested, so we are going to get a URL, but we don't have to use it.
I think it's, it's great if we can customize those, even if it's just on the webpage and not on the app, to be able to include things like, if we have another speaker come, like Diana Butler Bass, to be able to process those costs and, distribute that money to her or, to buy food or whatever it is. And so that's great.
Well, and one of the reasons all this became on my radar was because my father-in-law is a member, and he said that he was trying to donate to specific things on the giving page and wasn't able to figure out how to donate to like a specific fund or a specific area of the church, because right now it's just a general give button to the general fund. So
Right. Yeah, on the app on your phone, there are a couple of things like, you can give to the food bank and
right.
remember what else is on there, but you can specify those things. But otherwise, it's got to be a check that you designate, and then the counters make sure it gets to the right bin.
What's a check?
I know.
I
There
think
are
on the-
still people that write checks. It's okay.
On the app, there should be 4 funds: the food bank, the general fund, the Vern Kinnison fund, and oh gosh, Bob knows the name that we gave to the fund for special event giving. I
The
forgot what it
good
was.
news, good gifts.
Good Gifts Fund. There we have it.
I'm opening the app now just to make sure.
Well, we don't even have a link to the app on our giving and gift section on the website either. So that's probably something that we need to figure out. I don't know who has that information
Oh,
as far as what.
oh,
I don't know if there's a way we can, if the admin for the app has a URL that we can post on the web.
so didn't Kim Campbell set this up at one time?
That
Noah?
was going to be my suggestion. I think she's the one that started all of this or knew who started all of it.
Mhm.
But I know Mark had spent a lot of time trying to track all of this down a couple
I
of years
also-
ago.
I don't think there's really anything to be set up. You just download the app directly from Vanco. So Vanco is specifically for the app giving application, has a dedicated page. And I'm sure that, I know that I've seen that, Tim. I know that there is a link that gets you to a sort of a web-based page that would mirror what you would have on your phone. But I don't know where that is.
Okay, I'll look into that further. Because I'm sure there's a link we could put on there so that if you're on our website on your phone, you could directly download the app onto your phone and then you, if I remember right, you search for the church through the app after that, right? Yeah.
And there are 6 different places you can give money to on the app. So it's the General Operating Fund, Luth Youth, the Vern Kinnison Fund, Good Gifts, Keep the Lights On, and the Food Bank. And I think Keep the Lights On was, although it sounds like general operating, I think it was mostly to do maintenance and, pay electricity bills and those kind of things.
What was the name of the app again? I'm using my phone as my camera, so I can't check.
It's Give Plus.
Give Plus, okay.
And remind me, is Simply Giving also a Vanco product? Okay.
Everything, every giving thing that we have, except for checks, cash, PayPal, and Facebook, are Vanco.
Okay, what else do we have other than Simply Giving and the Give Plus app? Is there anything else?
There was something else on the page. And Vanco itself has a whole stable of products that are available to anybody who, I think, we don't have to even, it's not a subscription or anything. Somebody could go and search by the church and give in another way, and then it just all funnels through Vanco. When we get our deposits, we get, it's very interesting. There's like 4 or 5 different Vanco deposits that come through every week or every couple of weeks. And some of them are from people giving it automatically at different times. Some of them are from credit cards. Some of them are from going through different avenues, I think.
And so, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, do they like give you a receipt or something at the end of each month that has it broken down, like this much was for the general fund, this much was for the Vern
It's
Kinnison
broken
Fund?
down week by week.
Okay.
Yeah, the category is broken down week by week. And also the giving unit is broken down, but nobody but Kathy sees the giving unit.
And so it used to be that when Simply Giving was through Thrivent, they did not take a processing fee off that. Does Vanco now do that since they've got?
Oh,
Simply Giving?
yes.
Oh, do they really?
Oh, yeah. So one of the things, so if you are thinking about giving via Vanco, do like you do with every other, the fewer times you give, the less then every time you give, there's a processing fee. That's what I'm trying to tell.
I'm on a Zoom meeting tonight.
How much is it? What percentage is it? Do you remember?
No, it's about $60 a month.
Ooh.
But we get almost 40% of our giving from Vanco, from online giving. So, we get about, I think we get between 3,000 and 5,000 a month.
So
Maybe-
we've been
maybe
doing
between
Simply
5.
Giving for a long time, and were we supposed to have changed something recently? Because when we set it up, it's just an automatic deposit or withdrawal out of our account,
Right.
but it goes
Yeah.
through this Vanco thing.
It's all through Vanco now. I have Simply Giving too.
We do too.
So,
Okay.
and that won't change. One of the things, and then I'll shut up. One other thing that they said in this webinar is that there's now it's a button, an on-off button, where you can actually ask people if they want to give enough to cover the processing fee. You
And I
see
have
that.
the app has that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
We're
So,
doing regular
yeah, it
giving.
was enabled in the app, but now it'll be enabled for online as
Oh,
well.
good.
So,
I do my regular giving through the app, and so it's actually a little worse than Simply Giving, because every time I donate, they take a certain fraction of what I do donate for the fact that it is through a credit card.
Hmm.
But that's okay with me. And you're right, the app asks you, so if you give, X dollars more, then you would cover the processing fee and the church gets the net amount of what you intend to give here. It's like, okay. I wanted to say something else. Also, Carolyn, it's still true though for Mindy, what she cannot see is whether an amount comes into Vanco via Simply Giving or the app. She doesn't have that, right? She only knows what comes in from which giving unit, but she does not know which avenue it comes in through.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
So that link that I posted in chat is the link to the old Simply Giving form that was on the website that's that we use. That's what we use as well for setting up our recurring billing. So hopefully, yeah. So with this new thing you were talking about, I don't know if there's a way that we'll have to combine that account or if it'll just be a new thing because the people who already have it set up.
It's already combined.
Okay.
I mean, it hasn't been Simply Giving. It hasn't been the
Right.
original Simply Giving for years. So no, none of that will change. So, take that with the usual grain of salt, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we shouldn't be the first church to put that website up.
You're saying don't be early adopters, huh?
Right. Let them work out the bugs a little bit. Have the screams of agony come from someone else.
Yeah. All right, any other questions for Carolyn? All right, so I listed the mission task groups here on the agenda only because I want to keep it in front of us throughout the year. I know that probably no one has made much progress. Last month, we didn't have anybody, I don't think, that volunteered to lead getting some sort of outreach group together. And that's okay. But if you want to do that, let me know. And so I'll just tick through these if you want to give us an update about them at all. So youth and family, I put Barb there. I don't know if that's really true or not, but
I asked questions at Youth and Family, but Carolyn and Janet were both there too. So
all right.
feel free to jump in. I think the big question that I asked that group on behalf of council was whether or not they wanted to be in charge of education. And the answer was no, they did not. They were afraid that would be doing too much and neither one of their tasks would be done well. They did have a handful of ideas for fairly, I think, quick and easy sort of education or outreach, or I don't know how to label them, sort of ideas that I just put a link to the notes I took, and these are very notey. The notes that I took during that meeting in the chat, I haven't cleaned them up. They're probably full of typos, just, but so they did share some ideas with us that they thought could be implemented. I don't think that Youth and Family, I think if you asked Youth and Family to organize, say, a 15-minute picture book reading on Zoom before service started, I think they would agree to do something like that, or at least spearhead it for a bit. But I don't think that's the kind of activity that they would like to do long term.
Sure.
And the formal education, that's not something they wanted to do long term. But some ideas here for us to use to get started.
Sure, and I agree. We used to have a parish ed committee, and and I think I think of people like Robbie Giles or Jody Brooker, who would be fabulous at getting people involved and helping them do this. And and I think we talked last time about just these quick 5-minute lessons for kids, and I think would be a fabulous way to start. So I'll reach out to a few people and see if I get any nibbles, unless somebody else from council wants to spearhead getting a hold of a few people to get some parish ed things underway.
If you want to get people together, Deb, then I will work with them.
Okay. All right, I'll make a few phone calls.
And I
see
know
what
you and I had talked about maybe asking Rachel Marone. That's the
Mhm.
that would be another good person,
Yeah.
I think, to ask.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Anything else from youth and family that, hot ideas or things that council needs to know about?
They're planning to work on the eggs. That I think they're involved in that project, at least at some level. And then there were some plans to, I think we're skipping Valentine's Day because it was coming up too soon, but more Easter plans might be in the works. Carolyn and Janet, do you remember?
The only other one that I'm aware of is that, I talked to Janet McIntosh, and I think I mentioned it there at Youth and Family as well, is that we're going to do another musical greeting song. So that's in the works as well.
Fun.
And I know that Lisa's continuing to do, she is doing a youth Luth Valentine party, those kinds of activities. I think Lisa will continue forward with those. And I just got a note from Lisa saying that confirmation is on hold, but she should have more details in the next month. So.
Perfect. And, once we get an interim, that was one of the things on the list that I gave to Pastor Phil, was that he needed to re-engage with the confirmation kids and make sure that we were moving them forward on the same path. We didn't want them to be delayed. Anything else?
In terms of being an active committee, I think we've got some new members and it's a fairly energetic group, and they're still moving forward and they're trying to figure out how to do things in this kind of hybrid space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good group who wants to be together. So.
Great. All right, Mark, stewardship. Anything you want to share?
Only that I haven't done anything, but that's largely because I don't want to interfere in any shape, way, or form with the lots motion and the annual meeting. Right after that, I need to talk to Cass and John first, and then call a meeting and invite people. I have not reached out to Ben either. He's a pretty busy guy, obviously, but I hope that he is willing to help some out. One of the things I think we might want to tackle is, and I don't even know what it was, but I know that you guys had for many, many, many years, is it the Miracle Sunday or the Giving Sunday, where Cass would prepare all these envelopes and then send them out and try to get them back to identify or forecast what the annual giving would be. Mm-hmm. We should do something along those lines, maybe in a little bit more. Well, it has to be so that everybody can do it. I don't know, but we should probably do that again. And hopefully when that comes up, we can all be in church in person, knock on wood.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. So I haven't done anything, in other words.
No, that's fine. And worship and music, Sarah?
Yeah, I talked briefly with Janet and Monica, and we don't really want to get together right away because they've already got a lot of plans, or at least Janet has a lot of plans in the works for at least the first part of Lent. Mm-hmm. And so she's got a lot of good things going on. So we're going to let that roll. The FFF ministry is going to be getting started on February 26th, the Friday. I'm totally blanking on what all the F's stand for. Friday Focus.
15 Focus.
15 Focus Friday ministry is going to be getting started relatively soon. So we'll be working on that. That's about it.
Excellent. All right. And then I've got ideas for Parish Ed. Any other reports that I forgot?
I did reach out to both Carla Newman, and then I know that Tara reached out to me as well as far as campus ministry. Okay. And I reached out to Robbie Giles and just going to try to bring together some people who are interested in campus ministry, and then talked with Monica and possibly even sending that invite to in an email to everyone saying, if you're interested in campus ministry, to please contact, and then we'll get together for some brainstorming.
Excellent. And I know that Carla was also going to share the information about our Ash Wednesday service. And she's going to share the information with students about the Triple F ministry. To either come, to join online, or to be a musician, or to be someone who wants to do a devotion or prayer or reading or something like that. So, maybe we can make a few inroads into the campus ministry thing again this spring. That'd be great. Thanks, Janet. All right, so I did not attach the summary of the small group meetings. I thought I would just save that until we got around to getting a call committee pulled together. They'll need that information to do the congregational assessment. So I figured we could skip that. And then at the bottom of your agenda, I included some ideas for the task groups that Carolyn had come up with from things that we used to do and that were posted on our old website. And most of it, well, a lot of it is fun stuff. And maybe as we move through this year, we can think about things like, getting the kids to be involved in the crop walk. And, it's hard to do the Super Bowl Sunday when you don't see anybody for Super Bowl Sunday. So, but, I thought, well, the food bank drive for Ash Wednesday would be, another way we can help the food bank out. But, there's some ideas there. And, I think however we can take advantage of those, I think it was a great list. And so, Kurt, one of the things that we identified in the mission task groups was that we don't have anybody really working on outreach from our council yet, and we don't have anybody really working on parish ed yet. So you can think about if you want to be involved in getting a group of people together who might want to work on any of those ideas and help us get some of those ministries started back up again.
Yeah, I noticed those blanks and I thought maybe I could help out on one of those.
Yeah, just think about it, and you too, think about it. I know it's kind of a surprise since you guys weren't here last month, but just let me know if you're interested in any of those things, and I can give you some names or some ideas that we came up with. Some of that's in the retreat minutes, but some of it's just written in my hand scratches on my notepad.
So just to be clear, this would involve pulling together a group and then being liaison between them and church council.
Just trying to the outreach. Right now we don't have anybody who's on the Interfaith Council, and so I think if Pastor Nick comes, he would be our liaison with the Interfaith Council. But to bring those ideas back to the church and have a core group that he can say, what do you guys think about putting signs out that say mask up for your neighbor kind of thing, those kind of things. And so
that would be outreach.
That would be outreach. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then parish ed would be, trying to get some short online programs for our elementary kids, maybe include junior high in that same group, but then, maybe some high school, Sunday school, and adult ed. And just, and it won't all happen at once, but to be thinking down the line about how we could incorporate both remote and in-person kinds of classes. So yeah, think about that.
Good.
So new business. Before we move to lots, last month at our council meeting, we talked about the need to have somebody on site that could be in charge of those things like when the lights go out or when the heat goes out. And so I contacted Monica and asked her, about how much time per month might be involved, and if she was interested in being that person who, since she's there every day, that would call for the plumber or the heat person or whatever. And she said, yeah, she would be willing to do that, but to do that, we would have to decide if we wanted to pay her. She said it's about an extra 5 hours per month that she spends on doing those building and grounds kinds of things, so if there's a water leak or whatever it is. So we would have to, thanks, Tim. So Tim moves to pay Monica an extra 5 hours per month.
Actually, I was
Mark
gonna
seconds it.
So I just wanted to make a comment. So does this mean that we would give her the ability to make those decisions autonomously of, if a plumber needs to be called or if that kind of stuff? Or is this just mean that she would help facilitate that, or?
So usually what happens now is that like when the heat went out this week, she sent me a note and said, the heat's out. I'm gonna call Mike's down in Lewiston to come up and show us how to reset the computer and get the heat going again. And we'll have to pay for that. Is that okay? And I said, yes.
Okay.
You know, so it is mostly, I mean, if she couldn't have gotten a hold of me, she probably would have done it anyway. I'm hoping, but you know, it's nice to know. Usually as the president, you're the last to know things, so.
Is there a financial cap that I kind of feel like I remember seeing that in the Constitution, that there might be a financial cap that, like, if it's above this amount, then something. I
Yeah,
mean,
so-
I'm okay with.
So I think the expenditure limit is $10,000, and then it has to be approved by the congregation. But yeah, you know, usually those things are more maintenance, you know, sprinklers leaking, or the heat's not on kind of thing, or, you know, something's flooded in the bathroom, call the plumber.
Mhm.
I believe we had a discussion last fall about repairs that if they exceed a certain amount, that council, there was a form and council or UDEP have to approve it. That came after the $4,000 incidents last summer in the church. I guess.
Yeah, so Carolyn gave us the form to fill out for expenses. And yeah, you know, we could certainly tell Monica that if there's an expense that's over $500 to let us know, and we could, you know, vote electronically or something like that.
I didn't mean it that way, because the last thing I want is Monica calling you and say the church is on fire, and then we have to convene council, you know, to prove whether she can call the fire. No. But I just wondered about it.
I think we should have some language for the building manager part of her job that would, you know, give her some protection as well as us. And so, but I also think that that we really need to give her a reasonable amount of latitude. Otherwise, we might as well not do it.
That's kind of where I guess I was going with my comment of giving her the autonomy to make these decisions of, oh, the sink needs repaired, I'm going to call the plumbers and have them come fix it without having to get multiple levels of approval before she does
Right.
it, just to be able to take care of those things on her own as
Yeah.
she sees reasonable.
Right.
That would be great.
Going back quite a few years, there was some discussion about kind of getting a group of people together that have maintenance type skills and interests to just kind of know they're not necessarily on call to repair things necessarily, but to have somebody, have more than just one person trained to how to reset the heater system. Because I know back when that was put in, I think Craig was the only one that knew, Craig Greenwald. And I think it's changed since then, so he probably wouldn't even know now. But I'm guessing there are a small number of people that have talents like that. It's not me, but you know, if there's a plumbing issue, do we need to call a plumber, or can she contact someone in the church who could maybe look it over? You know, I don't know. It's maybe worth pursuing to see if there's resources within our congregation of people that could come in and help, at least help her determine what the next step should be, maybe if she needed. I mean, if it was something super obvious, then yes, I agree that she should have the autonomy to make the right call. But we might not always have to have an expert come in. I don't know.
Yeah, and so you know, she often calls Steve Fountain, and he usually gives his 2 cents worth, and then you know, if he can fix it, he will. Otherwise, we call somebody else. But you know, the issue that you raised, though, Anne, it goes back to the stewardship committee and trying to get a list of people who
Time and talent.
Yeah, time and talents. And you know, our list is so old that a lot of those people are gone. Some people don't want to do what they signed up to do before, and so I think you know, just redoing that time and talent to include some of these specifics, like can you be on call to help with plumbing or electrical or you know, maintenance, whatever it might be, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What if you have talent but no time?
Or vice
Well, that's a
versa.
whole nother issue.
What if you have time but no talent?
Yeah, that's where I am.
I do think if we're talking about making changes to a job description, that it will be good to have some kind of language that defines what the limits to that decision-making power are. Because while Monica is in this position now, and I think we all feel fairly comfortable just saying, you know, we trust you, Monica, make the right call. Monica won't always be in that position, and it will be much easier to put that language in now than it will be to do it at another time. So I think we do need to think about whether it's monetary cap or whatever that is, some limitation.
So, so I know, Barb, that you had worked on that job description at one point. Would you want to go back and revisit that? And then, you know, maybe next month we vote on that change to her job description after we run it by her?
Sure, I can work with her to
Okay,
update that. Yeah.
okay.
I was going to ask, and I'm guessing this will be a new business item for another meeting, but did the council review all the job or the evaluations of
Mhm.
staff?
Well, no, I said that they were all done and that the
Okay.
summaries had been given back to those individuals. Ben Beard really made a point that, you know, that it's not for public knowledge and we didn't want to send that out over, you know, email.
Gotcha.
Usually what would happen is that we would share those summaries in person and then I would take them and shred them, you know, get them all back from everybody and shred them. You know, it's too easy to just, you know, say, oh yeah, I'll send you that information and accidentally forward something that we didn't want to get out to people. And so, yeah, I told council that all of those had been done last month and that the personnel committee had done a fabulous job and and thank you
Well,
very
and the
much.
reason I bring this up is as part of the process with Monica's evaluation, there was discussion about how her job is classified, and for another meeting, I would like on the agenda to discuss all that, and
Mhm.
and maybe this would all fold into it if we're going to be discussing other factors of her job, that this piece being added to it. Part of my concern was the load that she's already got and whether she's being compensated fairly already.
Right.
And the classification, I think, is a biggie.
So Ann, do you want to work with Barb and Monica then to
Yeah.
make sure that that happens?
Sure.
That'd be great. Yeah, you know, I agree that, you know, she certainly works more than what we pay her for. And so, yeah, it'd be great if we could look at that job description again and see if there's some changes that could be made. And, you know, and then we'd have to bring that back to the congregation then for a vote, probably at the May congregational meeting.
Well, and part of the constraint is how much she wants to work.
Right.
But just because she maybe wants to work half-time doesn't mean she should take on a full-time job.
Right.
That if we want to, she only wants half-time and we're going to pay her for half-time, then we need to take
set the
some stuff
limits.
off of her or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. I just don't know that it's all fair right now.
Right. And, you know, and part of this discussion with Monica was, is it better to have that buildings and maintenance piece go to the janitors? Since they're now more or less members of, you know, more or less, Jenny's a member of Emmanuel. And so would it be okay to move it there? And she said it didn't matter to her. And so maybe as part of this, you could have that discussion about where would that piece best fit? And if it goes to the janitors, then we can have a discussion with the janitors about that.
Okay.
I think Ann had a great point. I wonder even if she would only want to work half-time for family reasons or so, whether, you know, she would be open, whether we would be open, or whether we could assign some assistant to her for, you know, more mundane business items that she could supervise. I don't know.
And maybe Ann and I just need to sit down with Monica and
Yeah.
rebuild job description based on now that she's done it. What is
Yeah.
the job?
Mhm.
And then ask her, how much of this job are you interested in? And then we could come back to council next month with a proposal to have 2 part-time people, right? One half-time and one quarter time, or whatever that looks like. But I think it's time to review
Mhm.
the position itself, separate from the person in the position, to see if the position itself is doable. And the position has changed significantly because we've moved into this online space. So we've added a lot of responsibility to that position. And I think post-COVID, if we wanted to, we could keep things like posting recordings of services to social media or whatever as part of what happens after we're able to meet together again as an outreach to folks who can't make it into church. So I think that even though these are COVID specific changes that we're seeing, I think they could be long-term and they've got to be wrapped up. It's not a Band-Aid anymore. It's a shift in our culture. So
Right. Yeah. And you know, and she was supposed to have had that her job evaluation done a year ago in March. I think first after 3 months it was supposed to be reviewed, and then we didn't do that, and so we didn't get around to it. It's almost 9 months after she had taken that job. So yeah, I think it's time to revisit that.
Well, I wonder if, oh, I was gonna say, I wonder if the changing a pastor might also affect her job duties as well, because we might have somebody who wants to do some of the things that she's taken on.
Well, and Tim, I totally agree with you. I think along those same lines, we need to be more intentional about doing the reviews on an annual basis. I mean, in our constitution, it does say that we're going to give all of the staff a review on an annual basis.
Mhm.
And it's not just, reviews are never one-sided. It's always, how can we be better employers, and how can I be better at my job, and how can my job description better match what I'm actually doing? And I think we do need to be more intentional and actually do job description, or review that as part of an evaluation process every year.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Anything else? We'll work on that. I'll put that on the March agenda for us to talk about once you guys have a chance to talk with Monica. And
I have another question. I don't know if it's a new business item for later or if it's an easy answer. I did just start working with Monica on the membership list,
uh-huh.
and I think it's through that church track system that she's got this enormous list of people, 2/3 of which she has no idea really where they fit in. And so I was going to take a crack at helping her figure out, which people have moved away. How do we deal with those people? Do they still want to be considered members? What's the either our church protocol, or if there's a synod policy on how do you manage your membership list and take people on or off, or, I know back in the day, there was that red book that was the be all end all. And now that it's electronic, I just don't know some of those answers for her about how to get it as up to date as it should be.
And
So there's a plethora of information about who counts as a member and who doesn't count as a member, both on the national website and on the Synod website.
Yeah.
And in our constitution too. I think I recall that.
That's not going to help you with all those people that are on the list, but at least it gives you some criteria.
I'm
And
curious
that's-
about the red book.
Well, I'll tell you sometime. Because it used to be, I thought that you had to have be brought into the church in a formal way. And I haven't seen one of those happen in 20 years.
I remember when we first started coming to Emmanuel, Pastor having these meetings with us that we went to like once or twice before we became members, where we talked about, our background and all this other stuff before we became members. But I only remember meeting like maybe once or twice to do that, but I don't remember anything official ever coming out of that.
And it didn't happen for us. Nothing happened for us. It was like we showed up and, oh, hey, we came twice. We're members. So yeah, I think we should have a more formalized process to recognize new people and have people feel included. I mean, it on the one hand, it is a little intimidating, but on the other hand, it's, you know, it's pretty cool. You get to be part of the club officially now.
Well, and
Right.
you know, and you know, back when previous pastors, it had happened quite often. You know, it would either happen in groups. You know, there were 3 or 4 new members, and we would do that.
Mhm.
Easter was always a good time to have new members, or Palm Sunday. You know, you'd have the baptisms. So yeah, I think you know, that's something that we can certainly ask as we move forward for the next pastor, to make sure that we do the public pronouncement of faith, and the formal, you know, welcoming of people into our congregation. And you know, even if it's over Zoom, you know, I think it's still worthwhile, so that everybody can see faces, and you know,
Right.
learn a little bit about you, and then you know, have coffee sometime when we can meet again. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, thank
And-
you, Carolyn, for that website info. That will get us started at least.
Yeah, and I'll put it on the March agenda, and then if you have questions about, you know, or if you need to meet with people who have been around, you know, as long as you have, we can all sit around and say, who's this person? You remember? So yeah, all right, perfect.
Okay.
Ask a quick question before we get to lots.
Uh-huh.
I'm just curious, but especially for you guys who are members since decades in this church. How does a church recruit or hire a new pastor? What is the process? Is it us? Is it the synod? Or is it both? Or how is it working?
I was just on a call committee a few years ago.
Well, go ahead.
The church has to fill out a form that is called a ministry site profile. And it has a lot of questions about who we have been in the past, who we are right now, what are our visions for the future of our congregation. It also, like, what are the demographics of our community, who attends our church, what do we look like, what do we sound like, what are we, you know, are we full of old people, are we full of young people, are we mixed, are we diverse, are we an RIC congregation? A lot of those kind of things. And then sort of, what are we looking for in a pastor? Like, do we want somebody, this is their first call? Do we want someone who's been in ministry for 25 or 30 years already? Do we want somebody in the middle? Are we okay with people in diverse, do we value diversity in a minister? There's a lot of soul searching that's involved with that. It's kind of like matchmaking. So we fill out that version, the ministry site profile, and then pastors also fill out a profile. And then the synod is the matchmaker, and they match us up with, they'll usually send like 3, they sent us 3 candidates to review their applications and say, do we want to pursue them? Do we want to interview? Yes or no? And so we, as the call committee, said, yeah, you know, yes, no. And so I think when we had 3 people that we wanted to interview, we then did interviews. So it's the synod provides the people, though. It's not a complete open blanket of everyone in the ELCA. There is some matchmaking involved.
And so before that all starts, then council will pull together a call committee. Usually it's volunteers. I already have 2 people who have asked to be on the call committee. One of them is Kurt.
Great.
And so, but we can't really do much in that call process until we get past this time when we're paying severance. And so I don't anticipate really putting together a call committee until, you know, sometime this summer. And it usually takes that call committee a couple of months or more to get all of this information pulled together, to figure out what the congregation wants. And that's why that that small group meetings from 2019 that we have, all of that information would go to the call committee so that they can look through it and help them figure out what the congregation is thinking about. Oftentimes there's another survey that goes out to the congregation about, you know, what do you want? Who do you want? Do we want somebody, in a wheelchair, or do we want a diverse candidate, as Sarah said, those kind of things. And then, then all of that goes into that survey that Sarah talked about.
Well, thanks so much. That's evolved.
So yeah, that's kind of the process of it all. All right, lots. So I'm hoping that you all have a copy of the motion that came from lots. It's long, and so I didn't really want to read it all to you, but if you don't have it, I could read parts of it. And so Carolyn is on the lots committee, and Cass is sitting here in my dining room, and so he can also answer any questions that you might have. And so we can, this comes to us as a formal motion from the lots committee. We can ask them for changes if we want, or we can also propose a motion that goes with this if we think that there's something important that they have left off. One of the things that Cass and I talked about today was, should there be some money that goes with this? So if they have to hire a lawyer or whatever, we give them a limit, or if we just want to leave the motion as it is and propose that to the congregation once we get to the congregational meeting on the 21st. Tim, looks like you had a question.
I did, but then I changed it. So I was going to ask about the lots committee survey, but I think that those were asking more about options stuff and less about actually what this is about. So that ship has sailed.
Okay.
I do have another question for Cass, or for the council as well as Cass. I know this has been super long in the running, and I know the committee's been working on this for 5 years, but is there really an impetus to approve this right now, right before we're going to be calling a new pastor in the relatively near future? Like, is there a real reason to push for it right now versus waiting till we get a new pastor that can maybe help us with visioning a little bit more?
Here comes Cass.
Carolyn can chime in too.
Yeah, Carolyn can chime in, of course. I like that deer in the headlight look.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
I think there's a couple of reasons that we're still pushing ahead with this. One, you've already pointed it out, we've been at this for a long time. We've been at it for 5 years. Some of us would like to get it done before we expire. Vern wants us to get it done so that we don't have to find a replacement for him to mow the grass over there. So, I'm joking here a little bit, but that is one of the reasons. I mean, we've been at this a long time. And I think the reality of it is, even if you give us the green light and the congregation gives us the green light in February, we're still months out from making a final decision. And while the congregation is wrestling with these other topics, like who our next pastor might be, we can be working in that space, I think, simultaneously.
And in my opinion, not as council president, but as just my opinion, I think that the congregation has made clear that this is an avenue for a ministry that they want to pursue. And if we have a pastor that we're going to hire, I think we would just bring them along and say, this is part of our ministry. How do you see fitting into that? And, I don't think that, yeah, there's a diversity of people that we could hire or that we could bring in as our pastor, but I think they would recognize that we've got this huge emphasis on doing something across the street that would likely change how our ministry looks in the future. And I think that's an exciting piece to be part of, a package to give to a minister and say, well, you could be part of this too. Yeah, Tim.
That's what I was just going to add, that it could make us look much more interesting to some potential candidates.
All right, so my sailed ship has come back. I know that that the decision by the majority of the congregation was to move forward with a development strategy, but I think that maybe having something, because I went to a bunch of those lots committee meetings that we were in the last few weeks, and it seemed that most of the people in those meetings had their biggest concerns with were what to do with the land, not to approve the committee to move forward with development. So it seems that there's still a portion of the congregation who is still trying to get you to debate this until the end of time, Cass. Maybe having something in this about that the congregation was already polled about this and this is the decision they came to might help some people see that who haven't been paying attention to this for the last 5 years.
So there was actually a vote and the 55 plus, like that was the vote of the congregation several years ago, or was that something that the lots committee proposed?
No, so the evolution of it, and everyone can pull out their annual report from this year and read the 2-page summary of sort of the chronology of events, because I think most of that is there. It's been an evolution of process. The original task of the lots committee wasn't even where we're at the moment. It was a much broader task. And that original task was to look at sort of a even wider palette of potential options. And we came back to the congregation at some congregational meeting sometime. It would be in that 2-page report. And we tossed out some options. One of them was, and it was all based on Matthew with the parable of the talents, right? So we could just keep doing what we're doing, which is nothing, bury the talents in the ground, or we could be a good steward and be particularly conservative and maybe do something like, and the option that we showed was selling the lots and investing that money and sort of using it like we use Good Shepherd or we use Mission Endowment, where we just take a straight percentage of whatever the balance is every year and roll that into ministry. And then we looked at a third option, which was if we did some sort of a development, what might our returns, what's the potential returns for that? And, just doing that little exercise showed that the longer term, going in for the long haul, for doing the development would be much more advantageous to us, especially, a couple of decades down the road when mortgages are paid off and it's more free and clear. I believe, again, I should probably go back and reread the 2-page report that I wrote, but I think somewhere in there, then council changed the directive of the lots committee focus to look at that development. And we settled on this 55 plus scenario, mostly because it is the one demographic in Moscow that's not being met, at the time was not being met at all. And this is another reason we should keep moving forward, because people have figured it out too. And there are other developers who are thinking the same thing that we are. That the demographic reports that we've done have shown consistently that the 2 places where Moscow is growing are in very young families and in recent retirees. And so it made sense to go, we thought, towards that market. And so we put our latest attention on that model, but again, we haven't settled on the scenario yet, because there's just so many other things that still need to be considered and worked through, like finding a developer who is on the same page as us, ensuring that we have the assets to even actually do this, well and properly. And that's what we're asking for in this proposal, I think, in this motion, is to give us the freedom now to take it even the next step, to be more aggressive in ascertaining the true potential of the lots being developed. And if you look at, I think number 10, right on that list is something like, we'll bring you some proposals and we'll make a decision again. Oh, it's number 9.
I do, have something else, I guess, that's still kind of gnawing at me. I should say that I do think development is a great idea. I just keep getting caught up on the like, what is the definition in this proposal of mission work? Because even in the whereas at the beginning, we're talking about, well, we keep losing all these members in our church, and well, we just don't have money to keep the lights on. And so we need this money not to do mission work in the world, but we need the money to keep the lights on. Is that our mission here, is just to keep the lights on and keep doing services on Sunday morning? Or are we really seeking this as a way to send kids to do a youth mission trip, after the next big storm to help with cleanup in New Orleans? Or what are we, or to, help families who are struggling to make the ends meet because they've lost jobs due to coronavirus? Or like, what is the mission here? Is it just self-serving and only within our closed doors, or is it for work in the world?
The sixth whereas, isn't it?
Could be.
And whereas development was deemed a way to generate funds to support congregation specified mission work.
Right.
I don't know that we know what that mission, I mean, we have yet to decide how we want to utilize those funds for mission work.
I just got really caught up because in the discussions, Phyllis and John both kept talking about how we didn't have enough money to keep the lights on. And so that I was like, whoa. Like, is that really what we're doing here, is just keeping the lights on?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. First, remember that lots is just to generate the income. It's up to somebody else to figure out what to spend it on. So, defining the mission is not the purview of the lots committee. But I think if we were clever as we move forward with this, and let's say we end up, when we go with a 55 plus a scenario, I think there's a way that you can, that's a really bad analogy. I think there's potential win-wins out there, right? We know that recent retirees are usually the ones who have more disposable income than, say, young families with mortgages and college debts and thinking about sending their kids to college later on, right? So if we're savvy with this and we go 55 and then we promote this facility to attract recently retired Lutherans who used to be college professors or worked at SEL or did something like that, and we can leverage that to increase our membership, that's a win for us, right? Because what would cure all of our problems is having probably 25 more giving units in our congregation. That would take care of a lot of our stewardship ills and our inability to be able to make some real leaps forward. So just using it as a recruitment tool to increase membership, and then the downstream benefits of that regular giving, maybe that does free up all of that rental income then to be used completely external to our 4 walls or our 8 walls or whatever we have in our weird church, right? So I don't know. I can't really give you the answer, but I do know that when it comes time to decide what that money would be spent on, it's going to be up to the congregation. So, if while Lots is out there trying to figure out what to build, council wants to take that time to figure out what to spend the potential revenue on, works for me.
Well, I think a lot of, our mission is defined by who our congregants are. So, at one time, there was a huge push for mission trips for our confirmation kids, or sending our kids to the synod assemblies that are designed for youth. When Cass and I first started at Emmanuel, every year we took a group of kids to the synod assembly, and, music and friendships became, were part of that. And, that was a priority. So I think whoever is in the church at the time kind of sets some of those mission priorities. And, I think right now it's hard for us to even say, by the time this gets built in 4 or 5 years, what those mission opportunities might be for us. So I'm not sure that we could set those missions, but, I think Cass is right. Those would most likely be outside the walls of Emmanuel. I don't see this as a way to keep the lights on, although, who knows what will happen in the future and how many members we might have. And so, I guess that's something that future councils will have to wrestle with.
Mhm. Okay, it's good that, so thank you for clarifying. It's good to know that. I was getting kind of lost in the weeds with all the whereases, because I was like, we don't like the first whereas, the desire of the church to continue the ministry in perpetuity, but then we've just lost all these members, and loss of membership constrains our mission work, and we have all this, we can't pay our pastor, and we can't do this and that. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe wait a minute, what's the focus? So I don't know. I don't know. Am I the only person that got hung up on some of that before I even got to the movements down there?
No, I definitely also saw those first 5 statements and was like, how does this fit with what you're trying to do here?
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only person.
I don't think that these things are mutually exclusive. I mean, it's a complex question. It's a loaded question, right? I mean, we do not know what our membership looks like in 5 years. Yeah, ideally,
Can we just say that?
Ideally, we recruit well, but we don't have really crystal balls. All we have is our faith, right? So, ideally, the pandemic is over tomorrow, and ideally, after that, we are going to recruit a lot of whole new members and families. But whether we are successful in that, we do not know. And if you look at the statistics of what happens to Lutheran churches in North America, the odds may be stacked against us rather than in favor of us. So I think what former council president tended to say is, and we also do not know how much revenue this endeavor would generate and at what time. Arguably, the longer those houses stand and fully occupied, the more revenue we will generate, particularly once these mortgages are paid off. So it gives us financial stability or perpetuity or sustainability no matter what. We only the last 8 or 9 years that I'm here, we have these discussions about whether we can still switch the lights on in the coming year, every year, at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, at the end of the year. And, I don't think we never really faced any serious problems. That being said, there were gifts coming from everywhere, and now we have these PPP loans, and there's all these things happening. But my hope would be that we keep the operation of the church or the church ministry per se separate from what those buildings would do, and I think that is understood. But on the other hand, I think it's good to be realistic that they do provide a certain element of financial stability. Arguably also risk, because we take the risk of building these things in the first place. But yeah, so that's how I look at it. But that's just my personal opinion.
Question, Sarah, is the 3rd and 4th whereases, is that what was kind of tripping you up a little bit?
No, I think it was mostly the 2nd and the 3rd ones. I mean, it does say congregation specific membership or mission work in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or fifth one, I mean, but at least based on the conversation and last week and the week before, and hearing what John and Phil, like the words that came out of their mouths at the at the discussion meetings, and then seeing that we were so focused on membership and so focused on it just looks like we're dive bombing here in the introductory material. And so it was like, okay, well, it's that combination, I think.
Yeah, and so-
Cass, can you tell us a little bit about that third and fourth whereas and specifically why those were included?
I think they're just, lots of committees carrying a lot of baggage. We've been at it for 5 years, right? And
I would agree with that. And also, I mean, we too have been in the weeds off and on over the last 5 years.
Yeah, and
So-
and I'm just listening to this and looking at what's down here and listening to Sarah's comments and Tim's comments. I don't, in hindsight, and after having it sit around for a couple of days and looking at it with fresh eyes again, I think we could start with in the fifth one and just start the thing with whereas the church formed the lots committee 5 years ago. We could start right there and
Yep.
just everything above that could go away. And
It's almost exactly what I was thinking too. but-
Yep, I would agree with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
works for me.
I will say though, that
I
for
like the
me,
second
everything
one,
that
though.
came before told me why it was important to do now, right? So one of the questions we started with was, why do we move forward with this project now when we are on the verge of, looking for a new pastor? And that could take a year, who knows, that could take a year and a half, right? And so why now? And I think some of those in this crazy genre of resolution writing, some of those are the whys. Why now? Well, because we're losing membership. And as we lose membership, we're losing gifts. And as we lose gifts, we lose the ability to move forward with the mission that our congregation has set forth, because our gifts now are going more towards keeping the lights on. So those for me were very powerful statements that said, now is the time. There is an urgency today that makes this worth happening because of these changes in membership and what the change in membership means to the congregation. I'm not against getting rid of all of those, but as a reader, I understood the necessity of outlining that information.
Hmm.
Understanding
Those are
too
good
that resolutions
points.
themselves are
Hard to read.
oddly worded, not always connected, sometimes feels like some of those whereases don't need to be there at all. Maybe that gives us some of that timing there.
I like the first two. I just wonder whether the third reads to me very doomsday-ish. I wonder whether we could just write something along the I'm not the English composer here, preface that, where we could write, whereas the church has recently lost members, and leave it at that. And then go to the next one. I don't understand how you write these things. I mean, I live in this country for 20 years and I don't understand these whereas resolution thingies.
I mean, actually, a lot of the introductory whereases made me think, wow, we actually really need to do more work as a congregation with stewardship and with recruitment in the community, making connections with the community in other different ways. If we really are losing members, I mean, yes, this is a great outreach opportunity. I think that's fantastic, but I think it also plays on the necessity of making sure that we're organized as a congregation. And I applaud Deb for getting the committees back together, because I think we're going to be doing some of that stuff with the renewed committee structure. And I just don't know that it belongs in here. So, but I see what you're saying, Barb, though, but I don't know.
I have a suggestion. Rather than just eliminating those introductory whereases, what if you started with, what'd you say, the fifth one? About the lots committee, about when it was formed and why.
Mhm.
And then at the end, say like the last whereas could be that we currently find ourselves, or that time has become of the essence, or maybe not that, critical, but something along that line, saying that because the timing is right now, because our membership has changed in a way that has affected our ability to continue this mission work. I don't know. It's at least moving it down.
Mhm.
It doesn't have the negative stuff up on top.
I never could understand why this wasn't come about 10, 15, 20 years ago when we had the congregation that could support something like this. I've always wondered why they just sit up there vacant all this time, but I guess I never got into knowing anything about it and voicing any opinion on it. So I
Well,
guess I'm kind of lost.
well, Vern, remember the lots were originally given to the church for the founding of a church school.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
And they were gifted from someone. This was one of those gifts that came with strings attached, and it was not something that the church ever considered as a mission.
Oh, okay.
So, or had considered. So for many years they sat there because nobody was building a school and nobody could do anything else with it.
Right. Well, I don't mind keeping the weeds down as long as I have to. So
Thank you, Vern.
as long as I can ride it instead of having to push it.
So is there any more discussion about this? I'm guessing that you will rewrite this first part. Is that before this goes to the congregation? Is that what lots will do?
I move approval of this as a seconded motion. Is that the correct language? To move forward to the congregation with the revision to the languages we've discussed. And I can talk with Cass later about what I said, if that helps.
and I second that. I'll second that.
All right. So is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve this motion from the Lots Committee with the changes that Ann outlined, raise your hand, thumbs up, whatever. All right, passed unanimously. Excellent. Is there any other new business that we need to address tonight?
One thing I'd like to say, Debbie, I don't know if it's going to help or not, but we need to find somebody that can work the sensor on these yard lights so they can come on at dusk and go out by 8 o'clock, because now they're being on until middle of the afternoon. And you got 500 to 1,000 watt bulbs on 12 lights. That is burning a lot of electricity that doesn't need to be. So one guy, Mark Brooker, is the only electrician that I know of that belongs to the church or is a member of the church. And so now I don't know how. I know where the sensor is, but I don't know anything about operating it or changing it to make the lights come on properly, because we're just using a lot of energy that we don't need to use, with the lights being on from midnight to, or from they come on from dusk to middle of the afternoon. It's just something I think that needs to be done to ease a little bit of this expense we have in the church.
Sure. And Carolyn, did Cliff know anything about those? Do you know?
So if it's located in the mechanical room, he might.
No,
But I think his knowledge is pretty much in the mechanical room.
Okay.
Okay. this sensor is on the east side of the roof next to the eave. And you have to have a ladder to get up to it.
Mm,
That's where the sensor is, as far as I know.
all right. The sensor must be like 100 years old, right?
Well, it's probably put on there when the lights was put up, yeah.
All right, I will, I'll give Mark a call and see if I can get him to help us out.
Well, if he could come over and check it out and see if it needs to be changed to make the sensor come on the proper time and go off the proper time,
Mhm.
we can do that.
All right,
But it's just a matter of finding out if it can be changed. The sensor itself can be programmed to do what we needed to do.
well, do you have time to, I think Monica's got their phone number. Do you have time to contact Mark and make an appointment so that you guys could go there together?
Well, I can sure do that, yes. I'll
Yeah,
try.
that'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you.
I'll have to get I think his number is in the book down here, so I'm pretty sure his number's in there.
Okay,
So I'll get a hold of him.
great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Deb.
Yeah. Yeah, Barb.
But I have a question, and this might not be something we want to talk about tonight. But I think we need to figure out what we're going to do with the technology as we move into an interim pastor. I'm thinking about the laptop that pastor had been using. I'm assuming that stayed behind.
Mhm,
We
did.
should probably look to, figure out what's on there and wipe it and what needs saved. And
It's already been
It's been
wiped?
wiped. It's been wiped. We got the bill. It's a Mac and it's almost new
okay,
because it was replaced in like August. I have no idea where it like currently is, but I assume it's in the
It's in his
pastor's.
office, yeah, in the desk drawer.
and then to figure out what we want to do with email addresses and all that stuff.
Yeah, so.
And I know, I was just gonna say, I know we'll walk through it and figure it out this time, but if it's something we want to write down as a process and procedure for, because I think we're gonna see a lot of transition, right, into our interim and then into our permanent. And so we should probably figure out that process and make it official.
Yeah, so so I talked with Ben, your Ben Kirchmeier. And so we're, right now that email address is forwarded to Monica in case there are any emergencies that we need to know about for pastoral care. And Wes Howell over at Trinity is our emergency contact for anything that comes up. So she'll get that and she would be able to connect those people together. But yeah, when the interim comes, then I do think that we should work with him to figure out, what works best for email addresses and does he want to use this or does he have his own computer and yeah, those kind of things. And then start figuring out the order of how all these things happen when he leaves. And yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, if we could just put together a process
Yeah, Tim.
manual for these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So Barb's comment about technology reminded me of something that I had discussed with my wife a while back after the last Sunday Zoom meeting with the kids being confirmed. I was wondering if it would be worthwhile to have somebody come in and help us with our sound system so that when we're doing these recordings, and because I know we have wireless mics, we have whatever mics are being used for recording during the Zoom services, we have the stand mics, and we have lots of different equipment, but it doesn't seem to me that it's being used in the best way it could be all the time. So maybe having a person who knows more about that, whether within the congregation or outside, come and give us some recommendations, or at least look at our system and tell us what we could do to make things a little more professional sounding in the future. Because especially if we want to continue doing these recorded services after this COVID thing is done, so that people can view them online later, having the best quality that we can get would be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That would be fabulous if we could get somebody who really understands those sound systems. I don't know if Chris McIntosh might, but it'd be worth a conversation with Janet McIntosh to see, what they already know about it. At one time we had talked about doing the mics that were to wrap around to be like right next to your mouth, which would be great if you had a mask on. And so, you know, that might be something that we think about in the future too. But yeah, Janet.
So I was gonna say, I do think a conversation with Janet and Monica and maybe Chris, because they did spend some time figuring out those mics, and maybe it's just that, you know, they need to have a training session for those of us, you know, so if they're not there, we kind of know, you know, where the mics are and have a group of people who know where those mics are. What are the things that we have available to help do that?
Yeah.
Well,
think
and
part of the trouble, Tim, is my understanding is that the mixer, the soundboard, doesn't have a current output, right? So you can't, it won't connect to your laptop, your today laptop, because it's so old. So it's a matter of finding the adapters that will be needed so that we can run everything through the soundboard and then put that as the sound that outputs to Zoom.
Okay, so if this is something that we want to pursue more, my wife does know somebody on campus who is a sound engineer who we could talk to and see if they would be willing to look at our system, or if somebody else in the congregation knows more about it, then
I think
I
we could ask Ben to look at it and recommend people too from folks that he knows on campus that do sound events. I think it's going to cost some money. My understanding is that it'll cost some money, but we could figure out what that cost would be.
Yeah, and I think Janet's right. The conversation with Chris McIntosh and Janet, since they've already walked through that whole process already to figure out, you know, what do we have, what works. You know, part of the problem last Sunday was that Pastor didn't have the portable mic on. And, you know, so he made a point at the beginning of the service that he was going to talk at the mic and then left the microphone. So, you know, that's why some of those problems happened. And we just need to be more aware of, you know, where we are in the sanctuary.
I'm sure that user error is also up there as far as potential problems, but I just feel that we probably should be able to have something that sounds a little more professional for our recordings, especially if we want to continue doing this in the future.
And if you can add on to that, I'm just an interloper from outside. The system that we have at the moment for holding one's cell phone for the recording, there's got to be something out there that doesn't involve duct tape. So we can put that
There
on
is
that. If we can have an asterisk behind sound system, something that would hold camera much better would be really awesome.
Whoa.
Ben said that there is a thing that's like you hold on to it with your hand, but it eliminates all your shakies, right? So there are those kinds of things that you can get to make the recording better.
We need one.
Yeah.
Plus, you know, we can make a tile on our new giving page.
There you go.
Eliminate the shakies.
Maybe we should just need to get a few technology-minded people together to kind of have a conversation about the best way to move forward with this, as far as how can we produce the best product for our congregation with what we have, and what would we need to make it better, or who would we need to talk to get advice on how to make it better.
So go ahead, Janet.
I said, I believe last week or last time that we met, Tim, were you also going to check into internet?
So
Ziply.
I haven't had a chance to call Ziply yet, but from everything I can determine on their website, they don't really seem to have any other options since they're just rebranded Frontier.
Okay.
I haven't called and talked to a representative of yet, but I'm sure that they'll just try to sell me their products to put in our church. So,
Okay. Thank you.
but I will try to see if I can get a hold of them to determine if they have any other speed options, but it doesn't look like they do. I think it's just they have what they have.
So who wants to take on this sound system? I guess part of it is fact finding and part of it is what do we need for updates? So Tim, you're going to take that on?
Yeah, I think I better since I brought it up.
All right. Excellent.
And if anybody else on the
Thank
committee
you.
or council is willing to or wants to be involved in it, let me know.
Tim, if there's anything that I'm usually there on I'm oftentimes there on a Sunday morning, so happy to also be a part of it. So that way, if things, I'm at least aware of the things that we have and to help things move forward, in getting good sound during the service. So let me know how I can help.
Great. Thanks, Janet.
Carolyn is right. Maybe this is going to become a stewardship campaign. Keep the church singing.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. And I think, part of our stewardship effort is these directed projects, right? We need $1,000 to upgrade our sound system so that we can be in church and do this electronic church so that everybody can have the same quality of experience. And, I'm sure people would say, oh, yeah, I'll donate to that. Where's the tile on the website?
Well, from the looks of it, Tim has $1,000 in his PC there.
All right.
I
Any
wait.
other?
I got a little question about my computer and stuff here. In order for me to get on a full screen like you folks are, that little red button or green button that says share screen, is that what I gotta click on in order to get on like you instead of staying in the little square? How do I do that? Or is it possible for me to do that?
It is, but not the share screen, but if you look for a little button that says view, mine is in the
what?
upper right-hand corner. Not sure where yours is.
Oh, yeah, it says view. Yeah.
Yep, so if you click on that and go to gallery view, there's one that says speaker view, gallery view. Click the gallery view and you can see all of us.
Okay. I clicked on the view up in the corner and then gallery. I don't see anything else. Oh, it says speaker view.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, gallery view. Okay. Now I got all of you.
Is that good? Excellent.
I got all of you.
Yay!
So it just gives a little square for me talking up there. It doesn't put me on a full screen like you guys were.
Mhm.
So that's all right. It's okay. It's probably better that you don't get a good close look at me anyway.
Well, we can all see you.
Okay, thanks.
It's perfect. All right, anything else? All right, let's close with prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for these people who are enthusiastic about the mission at Emmanuel, our place in the community, and our place in the world. We are so grateful for their gifts, their time, their talents, and their prayers that they bring to this congregation. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, you guys. I will see you next month or before. And don't forget Ash Wednesday, February 17, drive through. It'll be so cool. Bring your family.
Bye-bye.
4 to 6, 4 to 6 was it?
Yep.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you guys. Thanks, Ann. Good to have you with us.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Take care, y'all.